Alright, so the topic of discussion for today is mostly going to be about Irene's very faithfully put together OO on the topic of Generation Z. She did it as she's doing it as an audition for APAC Friends this year. Um, there are some minor hiccups like throughout the entire thing, but mostly we're just here to discuss like the implications behind her topic and the other parts that might influence her chances at succeeding at her speech. So Irene, like, give us a brief run through of your
okay.
ideas.
So I'm just gonna
Yeah,
be
yeah.
talking about like the Generation Z, and I wanted to talk about it because, like, if you think about it, like, it's kind of ridiculous to me that like you can group like a bunch of people that are like 20 years or so apart.
Speak a little louder.
20 years or so apart, like together, but it does like have so much like meaning behind it. Like we all know those like stereotypes about millennials and like people like that, but like we're Generation Z, and I was thinking like, okay, so what's our generation and like how does our generation, like what is being in our generation, like what does that mean? And it's not just about like stress and technology. Like a lot of people think that we're just like addicted to our phones and we're like on YouTube all of the time, but that's definitely not true. I think a lot of us like feel like lost, and we're just like drowning. Like that's so metaphorical, but like
So, do you think you're born in the wrong generation?
I don't know. Do you?
Not especially, no. I actually, personally, I really like my generation.
Like why?
Not moving,
Why
like
though?
being obsessed with technology, having the convenience at the having convenience at our fingertips. It's all
But like,
amazing.
okay, this is what I think. Like before generations, like older generations, their problem was like they wanted their voice to be heard, right? And they were scared that they couldn't leave a legacy behind. Our problem is that we have easy access to like getting our voice heard, like on the internet and like social media and stuff like that. But because there's so many, it's hard to stand out from
Oh,
there.
wait, pause. No, that's pause. Okay.
Okay, yeah, one, two,
So,
three,
yeah.
go. I'll cut this out.
So there are a lot of people in the world who actually have very bad ideas and ones that you actually really don't want to hear. So what do you think about that? Like, is that like a detriment to
What do you
Generation
mean?
Z?
What do you mean?
Because you said before that a lot of people are because we have like social media and access to basically all kinds of platforms at our convenience. Do you think it's better for us to like limit ourselves to that so we can only have like even though if it means restricting other people's voices, do you think we should revert back to the old times where not as many people had that convenience at their fingertips? Like in other words, do you want to revert back to the old times? Is that do you
No,
think it's
I
more
don't think
convenient?
there's like a favorable outcome. I think it's just like consequences. But I think it's great that a lot of people have voices and like they can like reach other people too.
Right.
But it's just saying like it's so like oblivion is like our biggest fear, right? Well, I don't know for you.
I mean,
Is oblivion your greatest
I mean, like, oh no,
Jeremy,
no.
oh, we're recording something.
It's okay. We'll cut this out.
Oh, sorry,
Cut this
sorry,
out.
sorry.
I take SL cab. It's all good.
Okay, let's
Cut
start
this
again.
out, yeah. So, did you take that from The Fault in Our Stars?
Yeah. Like I heard that and I was like, wow, that's actually like a legitimate fear.
Wow, that's really corny of you.
I know.
That's okay. But in all seriousness, though, like, how would you define oblivion in this case?
I think it's just like, well, I think for him it's different because he was a cancer patient, right? And he wanted his story to like, he wanted to be like inspirational and stuff. But I think for us it's like just like getting to the top, you know? Like all our work that we do during our lifetime could just be literally lost and like meaningless. Like, you know,
So you're saying that?
like what does it take to be the Shakespeare of this generation?
Oh, yeah. So you see, like, I think what you're trying to say is that there's a myriad of voices in today's generation, but picking out the ones that matter is kind of a difficult thing to do. Because, yeah, how would you stand out from, like, a generation of people who are standing out, you know?
Like, do you have to
yeah.
be normal? Do you have to be, like, more boring to stand out? You know what I mean?
I mean,
Because everyone's so different. Like, everyone's so unique. Like,
the what's normal is, like, not being generic as of now, but I mean, maybe being generic is like the answer to that. I don't know. But what's the definition of generic? Like, who's real, not real? And do the fake people, do they know that the real people know that they know that they know that we know that they're fake? But yeah. Anyway, point
Like
being,
our
there's
generation
like
hates like fakeness, like superficiality. You know?
yeah. But what's the definition of superficiality? Who defines
Exactly.
that?
That's the thing.
We're going our own circles, but that's kind of the gist of today's topic because Generation Z is kind of like a cycle of misfits. We all going around and talking about things that inevitably come and bite us back.
I do think that other generations are like idealized, like like people in the 1950s and stuff, where they had to deal with like world wars. Just life seemed so much more like romantic back then. You know what I mean? And now it's just like we're kind of depicted as like the bad generation, where all we do is Snapchat and lay on our bed and eat potato chips all day.
That's the gist of it.
Yeah, that's basically like what our generation is and what our generation, like what people think it's about. I think it's a lot more than that. I think a lot of us are struggling.
That's that it. So see, it really goes to see that there's some people who are proud of today's generation, but despite the fact of all its flaws that it has. But I'm the kind of person who kind of like embraces the flaws that we have as Generation Z. We may be like self-conceited, lazy, and people who just aren't as productive as 50 years ago. But at the same time, we've made so many like advances in means that progressed ourselves from the turmoils from like 50, 60 years ago, that honestly I think we kind of deserve it. We deserve kind of like the break and respite from like all the struggle we've had in the 20th century. And really the 21st century is all about, even though you'll have your own personal struggles, even though there's some things that will never change, there are still aspects that we can all appreciate because we've made so much effort in the past. So.
But my question is, what's going to be the differentiating factor between our generation and the generation after us? Because it's not going to be technology anymore.
They may be even more lazy and self-conceited.
But like, how can it just be so negative from there? Like, are they becoming lazier and lazier? Like, I don't understand when people think that our generation is lazy. Like,
we're becoming more efficient as a human race.
We're becoming efficient, but we're working harder and harder. Well, I wouldn't say harder, but
harder. Like, it's kind of a paradox, right? You work harder so you can be more lazy.
Right.
In the future, it's more like long-term laziness will lead to like
But I mean, wasn't it
short-term
always like that?
strength. Exactly. But like that's why I think Generation Z doesn't really have like a separation between other generations, except for the fact that our convenience level is at an all-time high. Because it's the fundamentals of a Generation Z haven't really changed, because the way we've achieved that, our fundamental nature has always been the same in the past. But building up to that is what I think Generation Z is all about. So, anything like in particular on your OO that you want to express, or you're unsure about?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, do you think we're more stressed than other generations? Yeah, right?
Yeah, definitely, yeah, but that's kind of but for like different reasons, I think. Because apparently a stress level of a high school student today, like statistically,
I saw
is basically the level of a mental patient like 50 years
Yeah.
ago. And so it kind of shows to see how anxiety is kind of a social norm nowadays. But really, there's no need for that. Like the anxiety
There is, though.
I mean, depends where you are in society. I mean, for us, because we're like first world kids, we really don't have much of a motivation to work as hard as people who are like not as well off.
No, but then the idea of being at the top, like being like the top of society.
That's just like, that's the greed of millennials, They want to be even more than what they are. But I mean, it depends on how convenient, how content you are with the status you are as right now. Because there are about 50 billion, like billions of people who can't even go to college, much less like the ones at the top. So for us to achieve noble goals, like go into some prestigious college is like noble. and it's reasonable to think that that's the case. But in reality, Generation Z doesn't really just have no need to be as anxious as it was 50 years ago, because
Really? I think we have more reason.
You think so?
We're recording something.
Okay.
It's okay. We'll
You
cut
can cut it out. You can cut that out. That's okay.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah. So yeah, and all in all, I guess when it comes to Generation Z, there are always going to be debates around who's more anxious and is that a good thing, or what do you think who stand for as like a certain generation, as the latest generation. What's really impactful is how you interpret it, because there are always going to be like two sides of how people interpret our generation, and depending on whether we're content or not, may be the definition of how you explain yourself in your own.
I mean, do you think you'd be a different like type of person if you were born in a different generation?
Yeah, I'd be a
Right?
completely different person. Mostly because it had more to motivation to work. Because the internet, in my case, has ruined my life. Like,
Right.
I would probably be a lot more productive and a lot smarter than I am right now if it wasn't for the internet.
Yeah, I mean, people think that technology makes you so much smarter, but I wouldn't say so
That's true.
particularly.
But at the same time, I don't hate the internet for that. It's like,
Yeah, no, I don't hate the internet. I think the internet,
I just think I'm blessed.
yeah, we are.
Yeah, we're just blessed
It's just
because
like,
we have.
what would our world
Yeah.
be without?
Because we can procrastinate, I never take procrastination for granted, because there are a lot of people in the world who have to literally work 24/7, and the fact that we can take a respite from that and to make matters worse, move it to the very end, like shows how blessed we really are as a generation. But so yeah, and answering your question, I would be a completely different person than I was 50 years ago.
So yeah, that kind of wraps up our conversation today. Talking about the Generation Z experience and how it affects us.
Stay tuned for Irene's complete OO, because she will manage to
No.
encapsulate everything that we've talked about as of right now.
Hopefully.
We'll make some edits.
Hopefully I will.
We'll make some good progress. And Mr. McMillan, if you're watching this,
He probably isn't.
yeah, count on her to do well. Peace.
Bye, guys.